So the lighting is what it is, but very casually, I want to speak about the feminine side of impetus. And what is the feminine side of impetus? It's a standby state of a possible particular type of relationship in the works of assessment. And based on the feminine nature of impetus, there's a process of assessment going on to see on a subconscious level what has this vessel on different channels and aspects, what have we ultimately just basically allowed respectively on all levels, because what we allow is creating our life on such a subconscious, subtle way. And based on what we're allowing, we're as we reel in what we allow and don't allow, that's ultimately something of a shield for certain outsidely miscellaneous forms of impetus to be shielded, because people are observing us and speculating us in different ways, respectively, subjective to their individual nature, that being the core of how someone else assesses us, and on a subconscious, non-personal to external conscious level, casually personal level, people are seeing what impetus they could possibly project or even receive, but like the feminine nature of impetus, it's it's a process of an assessment, because within the process of an assessment, behind that process of assessment, it's a particular type of observation, and what ourselves allow and don't allow, we're cultivating something of a shield to let other people know who are observing us, and unknowingly, seeing the feminine nature of impetus, we're giving them everyone's like, casually, like, more or less transferring something of their aura. What does that mean? Transferring something of their aura. As we engage and interact with each other, our aura is telling something of a story, and leaning this towards a more mature energetic level and a mature neutral level, meaning it's not all about the grasping within the surface level reality. And that's just a side note. So the feminine nature of impetus is in a process of an assessment, because as the other people are processing how they could relate to us, they're gonna see what impetus that they could give on us is void, and the impetus they could give on us is void because a certain subconscious part of ourselves is not allowing outdated constructs and ideologies and attitudes to be reciprocative with what we stand for as an aura. So within what we're standing for as an aura, as we lean towards the constructive feminine principle of impetus, doing our thing, aside from anybody's individual perspective of assessment on their confused, levels of feminine and masculine impetus, within the aura is clearly establishing what is not to be impetusialized, and what is not to be impetusialized is based on the different layers of ourselves and how our auras are defining ourselves in a constructive nature. So the feminine aspect of impetus is in a state of process based on, the anomalous observation in how someone could, for whatever reason, they have to, speculate at us, which is more than just observation, speculating, contemplating about us, thinking about us, and we haven't necessarily even engaged an idea, a probability between the subconscious and the conscious, that which is ever changing. Because you may have an idea about someone, maybe you had an idea about me, but now that there's other things that are unpacked on a more original level, on the deepest level, parentheses that, side note that, now the idea of me is changing because I'm pivoting towards my spiritual foundation. And my spiritual foundation, that's my masculine impetus. And it's a high principle, high neutral, high heavenly principle impetus of this is what it is. This is the balance that I'm showcasing. This is the balance that I'm representing. This is the balance I'm formulating and expressing. And it's a higher octave impetus. Because what impetus means to me is, it doesn't necessarily have to relate to business, but in most of the cases within our kind of like commerce driven kind of society, impetus is relating to business, but impetus doesn't necessarily have to relate to business. But what impetus is to me is like, it's the different it's kind of the like, I feel like, on an intuitive level, it's kind of like the different components of what deal you're pitching, and the deal that you're pitching based on like how you would like to relate with someone you would like to relate to for whatever reason, based on, the unique particular business proposal. There are things that are just naturally, obviously, or unnaturally, or unobviously allowed or not allowed. And that's what spiritual impetus is to me. The spiritual impetus is to me is like, seeing what chance you're given within, the natural rigidity of what you uphold, So it's like, it's kind of like a castle. A castle has impetus based on its rules and regulations on how you have to move through the castle, how you have to go through the certain gatekeepers of the castle, how you have to get, how you're even given admission to the entry level of the moat, where that, that wooden bridge, comes, reveals itself and comes, it comes as a landing, it comes as a landing to, for you to cross, for you to cross and have admission towards the castle, And as you're having admission towards the castle, the impetus is that you have reached a certain level of impetus in relation to the construct of the castle, where you're going through the surface level layer of the castle because you have earned a certain percentage level and degree of the impetus to be compatible and in resonance within the castle that you're going into. So that's just a metaphor of intuitive impetus. But the impetus to me is like ultimately what do you like? One component of it is what are you allowing and what are you not allowing? But also it's kind of like it's kind of detailing like what the deal is, it's detailing like this is what it is, this and like will the resonance be recognized, will the resonance be interacted with or not, and either way is okay, because that's the experiment of life. But within the toxic impetus of things, people will like create like something of a dramascape or something of a drama field where you will have to uphold certain principles and ideologies based into reverence and correspondence and conformity to them, based on their own unique level of power within the unique field that they're residing in, for them to even project something of a toxic impetus. So impetus could be toxic within its masculine and feminine, And impetus could also be, heavenly within its unknown feminine, and somewhat obviously re-explained masculinized impetus in how it's articulating itself for the further clarity of the evolution of even knowing how something of an element of and component of impetus is interplayed within, like, the societal construct within certain circumstances and situations, because the impetus in business, it's kind of like defining and painting a portrayal picture of like what is allowed. And I'm leaning this video towards more of something of like a feminine impetus, kind of like a reverse engineer impetus. As we're going through our life, we're establishing, on an unknowing to finally further knowing level of our spiritual balance and our external balance. And within that spiritual and external balance, we're creating appropriate boundaries on how other toxic impetuses don't have to be intruded within our boundaries. So the impetus, it's like, what do you really like? What are you really like trying to say that is allowed in your field, and how and from your unique level of power, how is that ultimately like upholding like something of like a psychological dialogue, or like a psychological construct? And obviously impetus, there's obviously like proper definitions within that, but this is just kind of an intuitive feel, of what impetus is, and allow me to like ground more so, as we go through life. But I like one important like key here is like to recognize like I guess like something of like a detrimental impetus, not conforming to something that is like painted with just paint like not putting lipstick on the pig. It's not painted with like fake gold or silver. It's not painted with like, it's not decorated with fake roses. We have to distinguish and have distinction between constructive impetus and detrimental impetus. Impetus is like what is really persuasive, what is really like what is really raising the bar, that's persuasive, that you have a possible small probability to be in resonance with. And if you're not in resonance with it, then that's your unique unknowing nature. That's your unique unconscious nature. And that small, significant, energetic component, it will manifest in your life, and it will create unique levels of ignorance and a lack of clarity based on the toxic impetus and the lack of constructive impetus that is in your life.